The last topic for today is going to be the Young Republicans convention that happened in Nashville just a couple days ago. I did a video about this where I interviewed Michael Casey, and this was a disaster to say the least. They reelected their chair, Hayden, which I forget the last name right now, but they reelected their national chair. And, there's a lot of firsthand reports of very suspicious activity. And I covered this in depth with Michael in the last interview. This is a really big problem because you have Turning Point and you have College Republicans of America, which is the new College Republicans group that is replacing the National Federation of College Republicans, which is the same group that ended up screwing me over a couple months ago. If you guys don't know about that, maybe I'll do an episode where I just kind of talk about the whole story and kind of go through my valuetainment article about everything that happened. I may actually do an episode on that. But College Republicans of America is slowly taking over the NFCR. And you do have the Young Republican group as well, which is another faction of GOP, young, GOP voters that put in the work that helped President Trump get elected, or at least some of the states, because as we all know, the national chair allegedly does not like President Trump and actually didn't help out states that didn't like that he saw as helping President Trump. He didn't want to help certain states, which is a comment I'll get to later on. But this is a statement from Clay Young Republicans, which is, I had gotten a lot of information about what happened from somebody there named Sammy, who's the chair of Clay Young Republicans. And this is what the statement says. Over the past weekend, young Republicans from across the nation traveled to Nashville for the Young Republican National Federation Convention. Many, including our dedicated Florida delegation, made significant sacrifices to attend, only to encounter a troubling lack of transparency in the voting process. Reports quickly surfaced that some delegates were being blocked from voting despite promises of transparency. The tabulations were never shared. We have asked numerous times since the convention, even in email, with no correspondence to date. The board sat on stage with computers facing away from the audience, no projections of the vote tallies, and at one point a tally for the Georgia Young Republicans was entered incorrectly. This error was only caught because another delegate read the lips of the national board, and upon them correcting the vote highlighted just how flawed the process was. This moment shifted the mood in the room as it became clear that something was amiss, and discomfort grew. This was even after the Nevada delegation brought forward a motion from the very start to appeal the credentialing committee's decision, a motion which took 3 hours to deliberate with many breaks, allegedly citing algorithm issues with the spreadsheet, which is ridiculous because it could take you like 5 minutes at most to fix a formula issue in a spreadsheet. The results matter less than the unorganization, untrustworthy process, and the disrespect that followed. In fact, I was just annoyed until I watched a video of how Chairman Padgett talked to my fellow Florida YRs, because by the time I was so uncomfortable and disgusted with leadership that I had walked out of the room for the final vote after I was counted. This treatment of the Florida Young Republicans at the convention is part of a larger pattern that began when we endorsed Donald Trump for president after Ron DeSantis dropped out of the race. The YRN national leadership even threatened to file a grievance against us for simply aligning with our direction of our state GOP. I have stayed silent in hopes that things would improve, but it's become clear nothing will change unless I speak out. This pattern of being treated as if we did something wrong for simply following our GOP's lead is unacceptable. As an elder YR, I will not stand for it, and they just as they haven't stood for our YRs. The Florida Young Republicans have always been team players contributing to GOP efforts nationwide, and as a whole deserves to be treated with respect and fairness. The way we were treated at this convention for asking for transparency for everyone, not just ourselves, has left a black eye on the organization and serves as a stark reminder that we must do better. Moving forward, I am committed to ensuring open and honest conversations with the YR national leadership in the GOP. I am committed, as I've always been, in standing up for everyone who felt pressured, disrespected, and disenfranchised. We need to uphold the principles of free and fair elections and ensure that all members feel valued and respected. The future of the GOP depends on our ability to recruit, train, and support young conservatives, and that starts with leading by example. So that was the statement from yesterday that the Clay Young Republicans published on X. And then again, looking at Nevada's statement, I mean, they basically describe, the motion on the floor of the convention taking many hours to resolve, and this is just a really, really big issue. As the chairman of the YRs, I hope my letter to the credentials can shed light on the issue. And this was a letter submitted to the credential committee talking about how, they felt like they were treated unfairly, how they feel like they should deserve to be on there, spending money to help send the national delegates there. And so they were finally able to get, their delegates in the building after the motion, which was good. But unfortunately, the meeting didn't exactly pan out the way that people really thought it should have panned out, right? And again, we look at this, for example, looking at Arizona's comment, which is kind of interesting. We see that Hayden Paget, he wrote that is the worst. Like Tyler Bower wrote, it might be time to start a new YR organization that is focused on raising money. And the swing states, the current iteration isn't getting it done. And Hayden Paget said that is the worst solution to losing an election, will only lead to a CR level of dysfunction in the GOP youth movement. I'm committed to working with every leader from Restore and helping their states thrive. And then look at this. The fact you didn't even win your own state is so embarrassing. Really shows how good of a leader you are. Yeah, he actually lost about 2/3 of his delegation. Just FYI. That's already a problem, electorally speaking. There already is another organization that can get young Republicans engaged in politics. It's called Turning Point USA. Drop the bylaws for the impeachment process. You want Arizona to thrive, but in that case, please advise us on how to initiate impeachment proceedings on the current YRNF chair. Where's that view? Only Google Sheets, including revisions that we were supposed to receive. Yeah, and look at this. Everybody's commenting like crazy. That this is just like a ridiculous process. And if we look at this comment, that I believe this is the chair for Arizona. I believe so. Well, this is a Turning Point Action data manager. And this is the Maricopa YR secretary wrote this and said, wow, this is quite a change from 2023 when you told me that Arizona wasn't worth your time because Trump was going to be on the ballot. Glad to hear that Arizona will now get all the help that YRNF can offer. I didn't know that. Now you're telling me for the first time. That's funny. Oh, that's great. This was great. I'm actually going to repost this on my page because this is like amazing. And then again, this nasty comment, right? As far as I know, the restored ticket, their leader, Peter, was always respectful of Hayden, was always respectful of everybody on the other side and worked with everybody very amicably. And you have this clip of Hayden in a private setting, basically like cursing and telling these people to go F themselves. Look at this.
It's better now than it was before. You can't go after a record. You can't go after a character because I'm a good dude, I'm married, I got kids. Go fuck yourself. Yeah! So, I need all of you there tomorrow. I need all of you there. I need you to be so fucking energized that they don't even know what hit them. Yeah! All we say is, hell no, we're not going back to some restored passive bullshit. Yeah. We're going forward.
Well, that's great considering coming from the national board that wanted Nikki Haley to win the presidential election. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And this is when Michael Casey, the person I interviewed, he posted a clip basically detailing the following. So we're going to go ahead and actually pull this up as well so that people can see. He goes on to show a clip. National Young Republican Chairman Hayden Paget threatens to kick out pro-Trump delegates at the national convention after a group demanded he release the results spreadsheets after he was narrowly reelected. Delegates were suspicious after it took an hour to tabulate results on a spreadsheet and wanted it emailed out. Hayden immediately motioned to adjourn after shooting this down. Yeah, you see, so this is ridiculous, right? Like, this was a mess. Clearly there were many problems. And then this is interesting, right? Because then he wrote this on his X feed responding to Michael's video. He wrote, "This is utter nonsense. Everyone in that room is pro-President Trump," which is not true, by the way. The video is of the last 30 seconds of a 7-hour convention where a handful of troublemakers tried to stop the overwhelming request to adjourn, get your facts straight. And that it really, I mean, if everybody was pro-President Trump, then why in the world was the Grow YR party handing out a Young Republicans National Federation idiot bingo card where they basically pro Hayden Pageant states were distributing bingo cards, calling supporters of PETA Gentina, I believe that's how you say it, idiots, and openly mocks President Trump and his supporters. So, I mean, we can read a bunch of these things. So basically, Hayden's supporters had these bingo cards that were pretty much making fun of like the Restore people. And funny enough, Ohio actually handed these out, which is kind of hilarious because Ohio is the same state where the chair basically binded all the delegates. So it didn't matter how the Ohio delegates felt. They all had to vote for who the chair chose, and that was actually Hayden. He chose Hayden. So it's kind of ironic that this is the one that ended up picking him. But it says, "We need an audit. Robert's Rules of Order mention, crying, filibuster attempt, kangaroo court, stop the steal, point of order, attorney law / student flex, bound versus unbound reference, election integrity, yelling / screaming, mic grab / tug of war, make YRs great again. I'm never coming back. This is corruption. MLK Jr. quote / reference," which, okay. Lincoln's crazy convention reference, yelling, sit down, stomping off / door slam, excessive cursing. This is a joke. Michigan slander, a personal attack on Hayden or Ashley, yelling / screaming. Donald Trump would hate this. So they were clearly making fun of people that were supporting the more pro-Trump coalition of the Young Republicans at the national level. So the statement that everybody in the room is pro-President Trump is just literally false. Like, that's not even correct whatsoever. And the final thing is, this was the really big thing that really is a really big issue. There was a point where they were, the motion was taking forever to go through and restoring Nevada and tabulating the results. And according to this text message, allegedly, you read the text messages and it says this: "I was told that the Grow YR went up to a state delegation with CRs and told them that they would be responsible for $8,000 of hotel charges if they didn't vote for their slate." Now, this is allegedly, right? But a lot of people, this again, Michael in my interview said that this was a really big thing from, the convention. This was like the main talk of the day, that supposedly the Grow party was trying to like strong arm people into voting a certain way. And it says here, the state was ready to vote straight, restore, and then split the vote out of fear. And supposedly the delegates that voted for Hayden actually got their rooms covered, which is even worse. That's a vote under duress. Therefore, their vote should not be counted. Hayden went up to the hotel counter after he heard the state was going to go to Peter and removed his card from the room portfolio. And now a CR is stuck with the bill. Can you get proof of this? I'll work on it. So obviously, there's not like concrete proof that this happened, but like there's been a bunch of comments about this. It was reported by multiple people that this was a big talk of the night, that they saw Hayden at the counter. So this is a really big problem, that you have a Republican group that is just straight up stealing elections. I mean, this is the same thing that the FFCR did to me and Andrew, getting rid of pro-MAGA voices that wanted to challenge the system, and they want their people in there, and that's it. And they just couldn't handle the heat. They couldn't handle the smoke. And this is what happens when you have pro-MAGA leadership come into the fold.